Hey guys, day 49 of the daily RC practice series. FYI, this is a CAT PYQ. Past year question, past year passage. And this is one of the most difficult passages I've ever seen on the CAT. One of the most beautiful, interesting reads, yet one of the most difficult passages I've seen. Not only is the reading of this passage difficult, interpretation difficult, but the question set that follows this passage is also difficult. Let's try to decode it nonetheless. Let's try to crack it. So in the first paragraph, guys, author makes many points. The first thing author tells us is that we have a tendency to look for generalizations, rules, regularities, laws that govern natural phenomena. And this tendency to look for generalizations leads us to dogmatic thinking, dogmatic behavior. Okay. The second point he makes is that dogmatic thinking is necessary to some extent. Okay. It provides a departure point of thinking. At least we can start thinking with some idea in our mind. So it's a departure point. Our conjectures, we can approach a theory, a good theory in stages. Fine. Third point author makes is there's a difference in dogmatic and critical attitude. Fixation in the former, we get fixated to, we stick to our first impressions. So we get fixated to our first impressions, to our beliefs, while critical attitude is marked by openness to modification. We are ready to modify our tenets. We admit doubt. There is the possibility of doubt. If you are critical, we admit that. Okay, that's a difference between dogmatic and critical attitude. Now, author introduces this Hume's theory, and he says, according to Hume, dogmatic attitude is a result of experience or repetition. And this is the popular theory that the more you repeat a particular activity, or the more you encounter a particular natural phenomena, for example, the more dogmatic, the more fixated you will get on your belief. So experience or repetition leads to strong beliefs or dogmatic attitude. But the author says, in reality, it is not so. This is Hume's theory. In reality, it is not so. The less experienced people, children and primitives who are not mature, who are not experienced enough, they are also dogmatic. They have a tendency to repeat. And experience sometimes may lead to maturity and critical attitude rather than dogmatism. So basically, author rejects Hume's theory, and he says experience does not always, or repetition does not always, make you dogmatic. It may also lead to critical attitude. Okay. What next? In the second paragraph, author broadly presents 2 points. First, he compares, he differentiates dogmatic attitude and critical attitude. And he says, while dogmatic attitude is centered on confirmation bias, if you are dogmatic, you will try to, if you already have gotten fixated on a belief, then you will try to justify that belief, validate that belief. So it's centered on confirmation, while critical attitude is based on refutation. Even if you believe something, you will try to challenge your beliefs, your own beliefs, your cherished notions, and you will try to refute these beliefs. So critical attitude is more about refutation. That's the difference between them. And so he compares dogmatic attitude with to pseudoscience and critical attitude to science. Therefore, okay, fine, makes sense. Second point he makes is that there's a relationship nonetheless between critical attitude and dogmatic attitude. They're not just in a sense opposite, they're also complementary in another sense. And why they're complementary? uh, if I want to critically examine a theory, there has to be a theory in the first place for me to critically examine. And therefore, and where does theory come from? It comes from dogmatically strongly held beliefs or dogmatic attitude. So basically, author says dogmatic attitude is the raw material for critical attitude, for criticism. So dogmatic attitude, therefore, is an essential component of the entire process of thinking. Dogmatic attitude is a departure point, a starting point for critical attitude. Critical attitude only refines dogmatic. So author says, there is importance to dogmatic attitude also. It is not that dogmatic attitude is wrong, because we cannot ever arrive at a hypothesis or a general theory if you are not dogmatic enough. Critical attitude refines that dogma. So this is a relationship and interplay between a beautiful passage, guys, a beautiful passage. With this basic understanding, we are good to look at the question. इससे ज़्यादा इसको एक लाइन को decode करना would waste a lot of time. So as I always say, a broad picture of the passage, big picture of the passage is enough for you to move to questions. What next? Question number 1. Okay, in the context of science, according to the passage, the interaction of dogmatic beliefs and critical attitude can best be described as. We just talked about this interaction or the relationship. So the question is from this part. If you can figure out this part, relationship between critical attitude and dogmatic attitude. And in this context, what does the passage say? Let's start reading from here. It says, the question is about interaction of dogmatic beliefs and critical attitude. Okay. So here he says, from here, for the critical attitude is not opposed to the dogmatic attitude. Critical attitude is not opposed to the dogmatic attitude. Rather, it is superimposed upon it. It is not opposed. It is rather superimposed upon it. What does he mean? Criticism must be directed against existing and influential beliefs in need of critical revision, or in other words, dogmatic beliefs. Okay, so that's the kind of relationship between them. A critical attitude needs for its raw material theories or beliefs held dogmatically. Okay, let's understand this and then look at the answer choices. Now, this is an application-based question, a beautiful question. I call them application-based question or the parallelism questions. Now, what is an application question or a parallelism question, guys? Let's understand this. He says, let X be critical attitude. X is, let X be a dogmatic belief, a dogmatic belief. Okay. Let Y be a critical attitude. Okay. And let Z be refined theory in science. So it comes from this part of the passage. Science must begin with myths and with the criticism of the myths. So refined theory in science. Okay. Now the relationship described between these two especially is Y, that is critical attitude, takes for its raw material dogmatic beliefs, that is X. So Y works on X, it is superimposed upon X, and that refinement, that interaction leads to a refined theory in science. So Y works upon X, critical attitude works upon dogmatic beliefs, superimposes upon it, and the end result is a refined theory in science. This is the kind of relationship that we understand from here. Okay, let's try to find out a parallel for the same. Okay, option A says a duel, a fight between two warriors. Well. This answer choice goes wrong here itself. The line explicitly mentions that critical attitude is not opposed to the dogmatic belief. If it is not opposed to the dogmatic belief, the relationship is not that of warriors, but two things that work synchronously, that work together. One is superimposed upon other to reach an end result, an end product. So warriors wala angle gaya. There's no interaction. Okay. Option 2, the effect of a chisel. Okay. On a marble stone. Okay. Now that sounds like it. So here, in option 2, X, the parallel for dogmatic beliefs is the marble stone. The parallel for critical attitude is chisel. So it is parallel, at least till this point. So the effect of a chisel on the marble stone. Okay, so chisel is having an effect on my marble stone, and do we have a parallel for this also? Let's see. While making a sculpture, so the end result of this is a sculpture, so we also have parallel for Z. Scientific theory, the parallel to scientific theory is a sculpture. So chisel works on, superimposes itself on marble stone to produce a sculpture. That makes perfect sense, guys. Beautiful question. So option 2 seems to be the correct answer. Difficult, but yes. What about option 3? The feedstock in fertilizer industry, that is natural gas, raw material maybe. Okay. Being transformed into fertilizers. Okay, so we have raw material. We have raw material. We have what? We have the parallel for dogmatic beliefs. We have natural gas. That's a raw material. Okay. Being transformed into fertilizer. So fertilizer is the parallel. It is the parallel to refined theory in science. Makes sense. But where is the Y? Where is the parallel to critical attitude? There's no parallel to critical attitude. So option 3 only talks about the process. It does not talk about the interaction or interactivity between X and Y, between critical attitude and dogmatic belief. So option 3 is out. Beautiful passage. Option 4, the effect of fertilizers on a sapling. Well, what is the problem with this answer choice now? Effect of fertilizers on a sapling. So sapling is the raw material. Dogmatic belief ka parallel is sapling. Fine. We have an X. We have a Y, fertilizer. And fertilizer is having an effect on saplings. Fine. But what is the end product? What is Z? So there's no parallel to Z in option 4. The best answer therefore is option 2. Brilliant question, guys. Beautiful question. Question number 2. According to the passage, the role of dogmatic attitude or dogmatic behavior in the development of science is. Now, according to the author has said dogmatic attitude, to some extent, it is essential. It is necessary. Here also he says dogmatic attitude is the raw material. Critical attitude also needs for its raw material dogmatic beliefs. So dogmatic attitude, the role of dogmatic attitude is, important. It is not negative. It is essential basically. All right, let's see. Option 1, critical and important, correct. As without it, initial hypothesis or conjectures can never be made. That sounds like it. If it is necessary, it means initial hypothesis or conjectures can never be made without it. It's a departure point. Option 1 sounds like it. The role is positive as conjectures arising out of our dogmatic attitude become science. Not without refinement. Please understand the difference between not without refinement by critical attitude. Dogmatic, the conjectures that arise out of dogmatic attitude do not automatically become science. They need refinement by critical attitude, guys. So option 2 says dogmatic attitude is sufficient. Dogmatic attitude is sufficient for development of science. Author says dogmatic attitude is necessary. It's a necessary condition, but it is not a sufficient condition. It also needs critical attitude, right? So option 2, it's basically a logical reasoning sawal. Option 1 says it is necessary. Option 2 says it is sufficient to become science. So that goes wrong. Of course, the role is not negative at all. The role is not inferior to critical attitude. Author has obviously maintained that the role of dogmatic attitude is also important. So option 3 and 4 are opposite in tone and fervor. Go out right away. Beautiful question. I don't know how many times in this video have I already said beautiful question, but this passage is simply beautiful. Next. Dogmatic behavior in this passage has been associated with primitives and children. Okay. Which of the following best describes the reason why the author compares primitives and children? Okay. Now, if you look at this argument here, as I also explained it in the passage analysis, here author says, you know, according to the Hume's theory, you know, dogmatic attitude should always grow with experience. So Hume says, experience के साथ साथ dogmatism भी grow करना चाहिए. Experience leads to dogmatic attitude. Okay. But author says that is not so. Dogmatic thinking is characteristic of primitives and children. And primitives and children, therefore, what does the author mean? Author means primitives and children are not experienced. After all, children are children, they're not experienced, they're not mature. And yet they are dogmatic. So why does the author compare primitives and children? Because both of them lack experience. That is the point he wants to prove here, that they lack experience, yet that is how they are similar, yet they are dogmatic. So Hume's theory is wrong. Lack experience, that's our answer. Okay, option A. Primitives are people who are not educated. There's no talk of education. It goes out. Primitives are people, this is an alien idea therefore, by the way, right? In our terminology. Primitives are people who, though not modern, are as innocent as, no, again, this is alien, innocence. There's no talk of innocence. Primitives are people without a critical attitude, just as children are. Primitives are people without a critical attitude, just as children are. That is why he compares it. Maybe. Author says, no, primitives and children are dogmatic, though they lack experience. And maybe that is why he has compared. But wait, that primitives and children are dogmatic does not necessarily mean that they are without a critical attitude. In fact, he says, increasing experience and maturity sometimes creates an attitude for criticism, critical attitude also. So I'm doubtful about this. I'll come back to it if D is also an alien idea or is contradictory. Okay. Option 4 says primitives are people in the early stages of human evolution. Oh, so that means they lack experience, lack maturity. Similarly, children are in the early stages of their life, so they lack experience too. They lack that. Perfect. This is what we're looking for. Option 4 is the correct answer. So 3, I would say, is a bit too extreme, that both children and primitives are dogmatic does not necessarily mean that they lack critical attitude. So that's a bit extreme. We go with option 4. Nice question. Number 4, which of the following statements best supports the argument in the passage that a critical attitude leads to a weaker belief than a dogmatic attitude does? So where does the author argue this? So he says here. Now let's read the line. This is a $1 million question, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is a $1 million question. He says, it is clear that the dogmatic attitude, which makes us stick to our first impressions, is indicative of a strong belief, while a critical attitude, which is ready to modify its tenets, okay, which admits doubt, okay, and which demands tests, okay, is indicative of a weaker belief. So these are the points why author believes that critical attitude leads to a weaker belief than dogmatic attitude does. Option 1 says a critical attitude implies endless questioning. Author has not said anywhere that it implies endless questioning. This is extreme. So that would not support the argument, and therefore it cannot lead to strong beliefs. Again, extreme, cannot lead to strong beliefs. Okay, a bit too extreme. What about 2? A critical attitude leads to questioning everything. Questioning everything, it admits doubt and it demands tests. Matlab questioning everything, maybe, okay. And in the process generates noise without any conviction. Now, this is alien. Author does not say here that it generates noise, so that would not support the argument. A critical attitude is antithetical to conviction. It is against conviction, which is required for strong beliefs. Now, guys, again, author simply maintains in this sentence that critical attitude it is open to modify its tenets, and not that it is against the very concept of conviction. In fact, we read here, the critical attitude is not opposed to dogmatic attitude, it is rather superimposed upon it. So it is not opposed, it is not against strong beliefs, rather it is superimposed upon strong beliefs. So this, in a sense, is contrary to what the passage says as a whole, though tempting choice, guys. Option 4, a critical attitude leads to questioning, it demands test, okay, and to tentative hypothesis. Now tentative means it's not it's not a fixation, it's half-hearted hypothesis, tentative hypothesis, open to modification. That's exactly what we were looking for, ready to modify its tenets. So option 4 has to be the correct answer. Now, a point to consider. The questions are, the options were too close, and therefore in an actual CAT scenario, you should not attempt this question. It will waste a lot of time, and this amount of reasoning that it entails is not a cakewalk. So please refrain from attempting such questions. The options tell you that they are tricky. It's a critical reasoning question, plus the options are too close, right? Last question. According to the passage, which of the following statements best describes the difference between science and pseudoscience? This should be easy. In the passage analysis itself, we saw that science was related to here, the dogmatic attitude is equal to pseudoscientific. Critical attitude is scientific. And why? Because critical attitude is centered on refutation, falsification, while dogmatic attitude is related to confirmation. So let's write it down. Dogmatic is equal to confirmation centric is equal to pseudoscience. Okay. Critical is equal to refutation is equal to centered on refutation, the concept of refutation, and therefore is equal to science. So what is the difference between pseudoscience and science? Well, its whole purpose is to confirm the theory, while science's whole purpose is to refute, or it tends to challenge or question existing theories. Okay, let's see. Scientific theories or hypotheses are tentatively true, whereas pseudo sciences are always true. Quite the opposite. Science always allows the possibility of rejecting a theory. Again, opposite. Science does not. Wait. No. It's not the opposite. It is, in fact, it's science. So science always allows the possibility of rejecting a theory. Science is refutation. That's correct. Whereas pseudoscience seek to validate their ideas. Or that's absolutely correct. Yes. Option 2 should be the correct answer. Science focuses on anomalies and exceptions. ऐसा तो नहीं लिखा. This is alien. Okay, that's not the difference. Science progresses by collection of observations or by experimentation, where pseudoscience do not worry about again an alien idea. That's not one of the differences mentioned in the passage. So this question probably was the easiest and one worth attempting definitely. Other questions were not that easy. Most of them, all 4 of them were difficult. The most difficult being the previous question, 4th question. Not worth attempting at all. So guys, I hope you enjoyed solving this difficult set. Now, this is the extreme that CAT can get to. Be prepared for this extreme, but I always recommend that you attempt the easy questions first before coming to such nasty passages. Okay. Hope you enjoyed. Keep watching, keep sharing, keep liking. VM signing off. Cheers to learning.